Hi everyone, in our last video on Doctor Who we looked at the Troughton years on VHS, and today we're going to look at the Pertwee years, which I paid £5.99 for from some unknown shop somewhere here in the UK. Don't know why I leave stickers on things, I must see if I can take that off. This is an anthology and retrospect of the third Doctor with the great man Jon Pertwee, my favourite Doctor. In the video I did on the Troughton years, I did talk about my history when I started watching Doctor Who in the 70s. So I missed out on the Pertwee era because I was born in 1973. So this is a nice video, brought out in 1992. And it's got episode 7 of Inferno, episode 7, a 7-part series, wow. The final episode featuring Roger Delgado and Frontier in Space, bit of the Who-mobile on Blue Peter, some of the 5 Doctors, and Jon Pertwee's personal favourites, the final episode of The Demons from 1971. 88 minutes, it's a very nice set. There's a picture of some other Doctor Who adventures. What is nice is Pertwee, for both of these videos, is in costume. I think John's last TV appearance was as a Doctor with a time machine in a Vodafone ad. So I don't think an ex-Doctor's done more for the series than John, and he always talked fondly about the show, and it is my favourite era. I'm completely biased. So one caveat about this, I am not going to show any parts of episodes because the BBC are very twitchy about copyrights on all Doctor Who episodes. I think Adam Martin, I've said in the other video, Adam Martin's great channel, his Doctor Who channel, he's had to re-edit videos because he showed bits. So I don't want all that hassle. So we've all seen the episodes. We can all get hold of the episodes in various ways. But enjoy John. You know, this video is about John, presented by John. So let's take a trip down memory lane with Doctor Who, the Jon Pertwee years.
Hello, and welcome to the Pertwee Years, a selection of episodes and clips and special items of interest covering my involvement with that very special program, Doctor Who. Now, I'm here at BBC's Television Centre in London, where from 1970 to 1974, I was regularly recording Doctor Who in the studios behind me here. Studio 1, by the way, is the largest studio in Europe. I was chosen to become Doctor Who number 3 by producer Derek Sherwin, and my first real appearance as the Doctor took place on screen on the 3rd of January 1970. Here is my first scene. Oh, very funny, very funny. My first major scene involved the Doctor realizing that he's regenerated. Caroline John as Liz, my first companion, and the Brigadier, the guest character that featured regularly in many of my stories. Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart was a character superbly brought to life by Nicholas Courtney. I really enjoyed the excellent working relationship that Nick and I had, and in many instances, our characters' quick-fire retorts were initiated by us. It's fitting then that having raided the archives, we take a look at the final episode of Inferno, which also includes one of the other stalwarts of my era, John Levene, as Sergeant Benton. This adventure features the original TARDIS console built in 1963 for Billy Hartnell's first story, and this is its final appearance before being relegated to the great junkyard in the sky. From June 1970, Inferno, Episode 7. I'm here at BBC Enterprises' Costume and Special Effects store, surrounded by souvenirs of my time and the other Doctor's times as Doctor Who. Many happy memories indeed. It seems appropriate then that our next episode features a veritable cavalcade of monsters. Ogrons, Daleks, and my personal favourites, the Draconians. Now, this episode was also the final episode to feature the Master as played by Roger Delgado. Roger was a great, great friend of mine before, during, and after his time on Doctor Who. He created the part of the Master, my Doctor's arch-enemy, and frankly, he was superb. With all due respect to the various actors who've played the character since Roger's untimely death, for me, Roger was the master. From the 1973 story, Episode 6 of The Frontier in Space. My portrayal of the Doctor was accentuated by all sorts of gadgetry, and I was particularly fond of the Who-mobile, a vehicle specially designed and built for the Doctor. Well, for me, actually, because the designer, Peter Farris from Nottingham, was a great friend of mine. And I went to him one day and I said, would you design me and build for me a space car for the use in Doctor Who? And he said, yes, how do you want it? And I explained it to him, and he did a little sketch immediately, and he held it up and he said, you mean like that? And I said, exactly like that. And so he went ahead and he built it, and he asked advice and said, how many pieces of molding do you think I'll need to build this car? And they said, at least 6, and he did it in 2. He was a wonderful designer, and it's still in 2, and it's still going. But here, from a 1973 edition of Blue Peter, is perhaps the closest ever look at the Who-mobile. It is interesting to note that the person who interviewed me was none other than Peter Purvis, who appeared in Doctor Who as companion Stephen Taylor during the Hartnell era. The Who-mobile.
Well, it's a beautiful, streamlined design. It looks as though it goes rather quick as well. What sort of fuel consumption do you get out of it?
It's very good. We've got power to weight, right? It does about 50 miles to the gallon.
That's very good.
We're still running it in. It's not going very quickly yet.
What is its top speed when it's running?
Oh, well over 100.
Is it stable on that with 3 wheels?
Absolutely. Yes, it sticks to the ground like a limpet, yes.
Well, not only is it a very exciting car to look at from the outside, the cockpit's got 1 or 2 bags of tricks in there. Can I
Yes, it's got every
climb
bag
in?
of tricks there are. Yes, jump on in.
You say you need to get in here?
Yes.
Shoehorn.
Shoehorn.
Yeah, I think
There we
oh,
go.
dear, I didn't think I was bigger than you. Now, let's start in the centre here. What have we got? A television
That's
screen?
a television screen, yes.
Switch on?
When you're driving, you have to have a cover. So I have a little cover which goes over the top.
Because you're not allowed to have a television screen where you can see it when you're driving.
Exactly, yes.
Well, nothing's actually come up yet. So what can I do to perhaps make it? The aerial's at the back.
That's a good idea, yeah.
This is the
That's
switch?
right, yes, push
I'll
that.
push that forward and
There they go.
splendid double electric aerials go up at the
That's
back.
the aerial for the television set and for the
Perfect.
radio.
We're beginning to almost get a picture in there.
Yeah,
It's
you probably have a lot of
flashing around.
interference.
A lot
Yeah, you
of
probably won't pick up a very good picture.
What have we got in
That's
this
the
bank on the side?
Switch the telly off.
Switch the telly off?
Yeah, and I'll put the computer back on.
Oh, very effective.
There you are.
What does this do, John?
Oh, that works out, you know, all sort of complications for flight. And
You're putting me on, aren't you? And down here, what's this?
that's
cassette player.
your cassette player, yes, and that gives you your flight regulations as well. See, we
And
work
pleasure
them out on
whilst
the
you're
computer.
driving along on the road
Exactly,
as well.
yes, twin track.
I think it's a splendid machine, John. Very exciting to sit in here. Quite honestly, I'd like to drive it straight out of the studio and away, but
Why don't you?
I suppose I'd better give it you back.
Yeah, why not?
Whoops. I don't think Petra would like it if I disappeared from the studio too quickly. Splendid. John, thank you very much for bringing your car along.
You're
Very
welcome.
exciting.
Nice to see you, Peter.
Nice to see you.
Now, if I can find all the buttons.
I don't think I've changed anything. That's it. We're all set for a rapid exit. Mind the jets at the rear.
Right.
Don't frighten the
Here
dog.
we
Bye, John.
Producer Barry Letts, who was in charge of nearly all of my 5-year stint as the Doctor, originally considered a different title sequence for my era, but he decided against it. Here's a quick look at some of the title sequence tests that were never used, and a very different version of the theme music. I'm glad he stayed with the original. One of those shots looks as though I've got 3 noses, something that I hardly need. In 1983, I was delighted to rejoin Doctor Who for the 20th anniversary celebrations. The 5 Doctors story was a delight to take part in, and so was the Longleat celebration. In fact, it was so successful that the whole of Wiltshire was ground to a halt.
A gross misunderstatement if I were to say that I'm glad to have BBC Enterprises here at Longleat today. I'm delighted, I was overjoyed, and I'm flattered that they should have considered coming to Longleat on this 20th anniversary.
I have reversed the polarity of a neutron and signed here today. You're welcome. So many of you. One of the joys of presenting this selection is being able to choose my own personal favorite episode. And during my time as the Doctor, I appeared in 128 episodes, plus the 20th anniversary story, The Five Doctors. But it didn't take me long to decide. I've chosen an episode from the 1971 story, The Demons. Now, in many ways, this is an example of the excellent team spirit which featured so heavily during many of my stories. On the acting side, I'm joined by Katie Manning as Joe Grant, one of my favorite companions, the Master, the Brigadier, Sergeant Benton, and Captain Yates. And on the production side, it was written by Barry Letts, the producer, under the pen name of Guy Leopold, and directed by Christopher Barry. All in all, my Doctor Who family. I've chosen the final episode as we join the story of the isolated village of Devil's End. The Master has released the power of a demon called Azal, the last of a race of outer space creatures who came to Earth long ago and who is aided and abetted by a wonderful little gargoyle called Bok. I love that line of the Brigadier's, "Jenkins, chap of the wings there, 5 rounds rapid." That's great stuff. It was wonderful to see Bessie, my vintage Edwardian vehicle. I did use her again in The Five Doctors, but as you look at this excerpt, you'll notice that she'd had a nose job. It was a shame she had to be knocked around, but her engine needed replacing. And unfortunately, her original type was no longer available as a spare, and so the bonnet was extended. Well, I've just unearthed one of my old smoking jackets amongst all this lot, so I think if you'll excuse me, I'll go and see if my bonnet has been extended.